What's up, guys? Tuesday 20, Volume 1. I just was like, you know what? It'd be good to just sit, chat for 20 minutes with you guys. We have a lot of things. I should say I have a lot of things going on that I feel like are noteworthy that we could talk about, keep you guys in the loop on, try to hopefully have some more podcasts coming out. I got some planned with some guys. The podcast is probably just going to be hit and miss a little bit on consistency. There's a lot of things that go on in life, and the podcast is just one of them. So it'll kind of be in spurts. But Tuesday 20 was just an idea. I had to just go through a list of topics that I want to talk about and share with you guys some stuff. Maybe non-traditional take here, but the point of the podcast, the point of what we do is to hopefully positively influence people, whether it's hunting, whether it's shooting. I think those things translate over into life. If you're on social media a lot, I would say the devil in the world is trying to be very divisive in how we view society, how we view topics. The same thing can apply to industries such as hunting and shooting, fishing, whether you're a builder or a painter or whatever, those things exist in life. I wanted to read a verse today that was big for me, Romans 1:20. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. That's a super powerful and scary verse because it basically says that whether you've been in a church, whether someone's talked to you about God, his qualities in creating this earth we live on are present when you look out in nature. As hunters and fishermen, I think we're out there more than others. You hear a lot of people say it's my church, that they feel like there's a spiritual connection. My path to having a relationship with God was through hunting and seeing that with my own eyes. So it's something that I hold near and dear to me. I hope you guys just think about it. If you have questions, reach out to me. Happy to answer those. Book that I would really recommend that is just like a very common sense take on what it means to be a Christian and to follow Jesus is Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. He wrote some books that you may have heard of, The Chronicles of Narnia. Super great book. It really just talks through the human psyche, how we think, how we feel, how our world operates, how that should point us towards there being a creator and God, and then trying to figure out, which one's the true God? What do I believe? How do I sort that out? But it's a super great read. You can listen to it on audiobook. Other topics that I want to dive into, it's application season, which is a crazy time of the year because it seems like there's all kinds of deadlines. You have to come right off of a hunting season where you were super invested and focused on all these hunts and trying to do your best, at least, if you're a more avid hunter, and then piggyback right on the back of it. I got to go think about an entirely new season. What states do I want to hunt? How do I know what I'm going to be doing in August, September, October, November? One thing that is huge for me, and, I think we've created a great relationship with the Go Hunt guys for many years, and they sponsor the podcast here. I love the Go Hunt Insider. I know that there are other places that you can get the information, but their dashboard and how you can just go to states very quickly, isolate species, isolate units, understand draw odds. As far as efficiency of your time in making decisions, it's unrivaled. It's what I use every single year as my primary tool outside of just going and looking at maps of hunt areas. You can supplement that with a bunch of different things. They have great insider articles that walk you through draw processes, units, areas, conditions of states as far as deer and elk quality. There's a bunch there. I really just use the map view and isolate by species. Go look at draw odds. I'll do some more isolation based on, trophy quality or seasons. It's just super streamlined. Absolutely love it. Would recommend it for the price and the time that I save. No brainer. I think that piggybacks on to this concept of, if you want to be good at hunting, if you want to succeed or have lofty goals or be considered an expert in the subject matter, there is no off season. I don't know how many times I've come back from hunts, packing something out, and I had to be at home and I was straight back in the gym. There's never really a letting off of the gas as far as the process goes of like the structure of what it looks like, at least for me, to do the things that hopefully result in successful hunts in the fall. And sometimes that's tagging an animal and sometimes it's not, but I put the work in and I had the right framework of mind when I went out in the field to have success. That process for me, it never ends. I would really encourage some of you guys to find ways to supplement in your off season how you can keep and maintain that predator mentality. For me, I love coyote hunting. I've coyote hunted since the beginning of my hunting path and journey. I think coyote hunting is such a dynamic pursuit. I know it's a lot more popular now. There's guys that, are able to afford thermals, that price, that ceilings come down. A lot of guys are night hunting, which is still great and it's still a learning experience, but daytime calling coyotes or going wolf hunting is a great way to utilize your rifle. I don't know a lot of guys that do it with a bow, but you could utilize your rifle, understand your gear in cold conditions, be able to overcome that surge of adrenaline when those coyotes come popping over a ridge or show up to your right or your left or somewhere where you least expected them, and you have to do all these things to try to get one on the ground. I love that. Guys will go to Arizona. You can pick up a workout routine. You could shoot your bow in the off season and shoot a bow league. There's all kinds of ways to really stay in that framework as a hunter. And just thinking about my Tuesday 20, I feel like if I keep rambling, 20 minutes will go quick. So stay on top of it, you guys. We've got some application deadlines coming up very quickly. So start to think about it. I have spreadsheets that help organize where I apply what units that last year I might have looked at that I consider for this year, just to speed that process up. I think we all love hunting. I don't necessarily love the behind the scenes tinkering and the research. It's a necessary thing I need to do, but I want to streamline it and make it efficient. If you want to call it the off season, but this time of year, winter, before we get back into spring, I'm getting ready for a bunch of shooting matches. I guess I shouldn't say a bunch because in context to what some guys shoot, I hardly shoot any, but I'll shoot 3 or 4 a year. And so I've been doing a lot of reloading, working with my rifles. One thing that I think a lot of people overlook, and I used to overlook more than I should have, was just rifle maintenance. Go be able to take your rifle apart. These things are not that complicated. I know some factory guns might not be as easy to pull apart as, say, maybe not even a custom gun, but a gun that you can select the components and piece together. Trigger maintenance is a big one. My triggers have done exceptional for a long time. The other day I was out wolf hunting and I went to shoot a rock before we left and the trigger wouldn't fire. And I figured there was something in the trigger mechanism, some oil or grease or something that froze up. It was about 0 degrees. And the firing pin would not drop. The sear, just nothing was happening. So I immediately came back and went down a dark rabbit hole of pulling all my triggers apart, cleaning them. You don't necessarily have to pull your trigger apart. You can kind of douse them out, rinse them out with lighter fluid. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube. You can Google this and find it very quickly. The trigger's a great one. Bipods are something that will get dirty. The mechanisms for adjusting them a lot of times can be pulled apart or cleaned. Taking your rifled action out of the stock, making sure that you remove any of the debris that maybe got in between the barrel and the stock or around any of your bottom metal. We don't want to have any unnecessary pressure points that could potentially build up. For the most part, it's just small little debris, and it's nice to clean out of there on an annual basis just for peace of mind. You get to be familiar with your system, make sure that everything's clean and put back together properly. Obviously, cleaning your rifle is super important. There's some bolt maintenance, really just keeping that thing clean, and then minimal lube on a bolt is great. You don't want it to be attracting a lot of dirt and dust. I'd say one thing guys don't really do as much as maybe they should is seeing if their chamber and the throat area of the chamber is clean. You can get carbon rings in there on some of the bigger calibers. It can cause pressure issues, which would be a velocity variance that would essentially create high and low misses or some flyers. Realistically, you probably want a bore scope to try to address those issues. But if you stay on top of maintaining the chamber, the neck, when you do your normal barrel cleaning, you hopefully shouldn't run into problems. So I would do that. I'm going to clean, you can see it behind me here. I'm going to clean some of my suppressors. Guys will say that you don't need to clean them. They do accumulate carbon buildup. So I'm going to go through the process of cleaning some of them, see if I notice any tangible results. I think a lot of these things with the rifle system is you can try to glean good information from people around you, but I think there's a lot of opinions on a lot of things. And when you are getting to be good at doing this, you've learned to kind of problem solve a bit of your own system and learn what works and what doesn't. I wouldn't say that I've noticed an accuracy change, but I am curious how much carbon has built up in there. Obviously, a weight change on the front of your barrel would have enough of an impact to potentially throw off the harmonics or something within your rifle that could affect accuracy. So whether it does or not, I haven't been able to test it. You can find people on both sides of the aisle that would say one thing or the other, but we're going to clean them out. I don't think it hurts. And so, yeah, I've been doing that NRL hunter prep, just trying to get some reps on the rifle. I think biggest takeaway there for me, quality over quantity every single time. There's guys that I know that shoot 10 times the amount of matches as me, but I think that my ability to prepare well, I'd say closes that gap when it comes to competition day. And not everyone needs to shoot a match to compete. I just personally enjoy it and have spent enough time around firearms to have a great base that allows me to be competitive if I want to be. So yeah, I think having a purpose when you practice, which I learned that from golf when I was younger. Playing golf is a very purpose-driven sport if you want to get really good at it. And so that applies to shooting sports as well as trying to hone in on your mental side of the game. The mental aspect, I would say, is arguably the biggest separator when you start getting into that top 20% of shooters at these matches. Coyote hunting stuff. I know some people have had some questions on kind of what we've been up to, our thoughts on things. I'm using some new thermal stuff this year. The Leica Calinox 2 Sight LRF has been awesome. Clip-ons are really a great system if you don't want to have multiple rifles. Some people do want to have a dedicated coyote rig. That's awesome. And I think that the thermal scopes are probably your best bet for a dedicated coyote rig. You get the most bang for your buck and definitely a larger feature set in that. I don't have any recommendations. There's plenty of guys out there that run that stuff that you can hit up and ask. I would ask people who kill a lot of coyotes, not someone who just got a free unit on the internet and is acting like they know what's going on. I'm not a great coyote hunter. I like to go out. Sometimes I feel like I know what I'm doing. A lot of times I don't. All I know is that the Leica stuff, the quality compared to some of the things I've looked through that are maybe 2 or 3x the price point, I'm very happy with the Leica. The range finding feature is awesome. Although I don't get a ballistic solution, I can have a comprehension of how far that coyote is out there, which is a big one. If you're not thermal hunting all the time, that depth perception can be a little challenging. The interface, you don't have to zero it. If you do have some sort of issue, there is a way to adjust the zero. So it's a super easy setup as far as I could go day hunting. If I wanted to continue hunting on into the night, I literally clip it on the front of my scope, turn it on and go. So that's been awesome. I still love day calling so much more than night calling. I think there may be in some areas sort of a flip-flop where in the past night calling was just lights out. Dogs would come running. They were just not aware of what was going on. And I think coyotes are getting pretty educated on what's going on at night. They're staying further away from roads at night. Guys are just lazy and they don't want to hike super far in the dark when it's cold. I don't blame them. But the coyotes kind of know the program in areas where they're getting hunted hard. It still can be exceptional. I just love to hunt during the day when you can see the body language and really understand the topography out there. Try to read the landscape. Try to understand where you're hiding. I think it's a little bit more dynamic. And then I kind of want to end. I know SHOT Show was just recently, so is Sheep Show. The annual new product marketing is being pounded down everyone's throats on what the latest and greatest is. And no doubt there are some awesome new products that come to market that make things better, whether that's efficiency, whether that's accuracy, whether that's standard deviation of something or tolerance, whatever it might be. There's always great new products. It's a little frustrating, I think, to see how people are marketed to, and this is just across the board in life. I don't know why people eat things hook, line, and sinker from sources that have really no qualifications of why they should be able to disseminate information to you and be trustworthy. You know, I see rifle companies that have been around for 50 plus years, and the main spokesperson is telling you why this rifle is the latest, the greatest, the best. There's nothing attached to it that is measurable. It's just words. It's marketing gimmickry on why you need a new gun when you don't. Why you should actually stay away from their firearms. When you see someone who obviously doesn't spend a lot of trigger time on a rifle, advertising video, shooting off a tripod, immediately after shooting, pulls his head up off the gun, looking. What are you looking for? You should be staying in your scope. If you shoot a firearm a lot, you know that the best way to see where your bullet impacts and to stay on target would be to stay in the scope. So why should I trust anything you have to say about a firearm if you can't even master some of the more basic principles of shooting a bolt action firearm well? And obviously, I've spent a lot of time shooting to where maybe I'm more aware of those things than the average person, but it's just frustrating to see. I think the frustrating part for me is to see that people don't really care about you at the end of the day. They just want you to buy their new thing. They want to line their pockets with money, keep their business growing, and it doesn't matter if they actually came out with a better product. Doesn't matter if they actually are pursuing excellence in their business and their product lineup. It's kind of what we see, I think, across the board in the U.S. And it's not just hunting. It's not fishing. It's everything. I mean, we're marketed pharmaceutical drugs to fix problems that are self-inflicted. I mean, you go on down the list, but I think as far as getting good advice in the firearm space, find guys who either do a lot of hunting and have a successful track record if you're a hunter, because there are differences in how you might hunt in certain areas and what the equipment should be. If you're a competitive shooter, man, I just like to listen to the guys that are at the top. You know, they've figured out how to perform at an elite level, and their opinion is probably pretty dang good. A lot of these guys are approachable for information. I think that people who are in the space of firearms that are scared to put their name on a scorecard, I would just stay away from as far as taking their advice fully. Not to say that they can't be 100% right on certain things. I just know from experience and being friends with enough guys who are hunters and really want to be on the ball when it comes to a dynamic shot in the field on an animal, that going to matches hands down has increased their knowledge, their skill set, and their ability to understand what a rifle really needs to do, what it should do, how it should operate, how it should perform, not only to give you the best success in the field, but to allow you to be efficient with your time and your money, because these rifles are not cheap. the newest, latest, and greatest stuff is wicked expensive. And I'd rather someone build one good gun than go through the ringer on 10 different things they were sold. And yeah, it's up to everyone to determine who they want to listen to. You don't have to listen to me. If you deem that I'm an authority that has the qualifications for you, great. But I'm trying to do my best to be a good hunter, a good shooter, try to help you guys out where I can. I wish I had more resources to make videos and content on a regular basis, but we're jumping on the podcast. We're trying to do it. We've dropped some films recently. We went down to Wyoming last year. I know we're hitting the 20-minute mark. We'll keep her short. Brandon Purcell and I went down to Wyoming last year, shot NRL Hunter, Buffalo Bills Revenge. And that was an instance where I'd shot some matches and I'd talked to Brandon. We'd kind of worked on, he wanted to build a new gun. He kind of had got one that wasn't quite what he wanted. He wants something a little more shootable. He had a 300 PRC, which is a great round. It's not the most shootable rifle. And so he built a 6.5 PRC. I got him all hooked up, went down there. He shot his first ever NRL Hunter match. And he would agree, and he would say this, that it was just an exceptional learning experience to really understand positional, practical marksmanship, which is exactly what we do when we go hunting. We hope that we get layups. We get the 200 yard, the 300 yard, prone, no wind, all the time in the world shot. But if you hunt enough, you know that is not the typical scenario that we get. And so we filmed that, and then we went fishing for a few days and filmed that. It's called Wyoming Cast and Blast. It's out on YouTube. If you haven't checked out Heavy, it's a mountain mule deer hunt film that we did from the 2024 season. So not last year, the season prior. Jared Miller and I both shot a couple sweet bucks, backpack hunt. I wish I could say that mountain buck hunts ended like that more often, but that's the rarity. So if you're interested in getting excited about another season mountain mule deer hunting, which I know I am, you should check that one out. We did a Matthews Proving Grounds film. If you just are tuning in and kind of didn't catch that in September, October, November, it's called Immersion. It's on the Matthews Archery page. Jared and I killed a couple great bulls with our bows. Those are the successful hunts, and those are, they're the rarity. And then the last thing I want to talk about is we do have some apparel for sale. I don't love pushing apparel. Travis and I used to do it a lot more when Montana Wild was getting off the ground. You guys have asked for older styles to come back in stock. I'm wearing the Bully Trucker. I personally think it's a sweet hat. Any support that you guys can give us through t-shirt or hats or whatever, all that stuff goes directly back into film projects. We fund film projects a variety of different ways. I'm doing taxes right now. I want to say, off the top of my head, I know we spent at least $50,000 last year on outside help to make film projects for us, which isn't a huge amount, but for just a little one-man band, that's a lot of money that we're spending to try to bring you guys really good content. So yeah, every little bit helps. I really like to try to pay good quality film guys that I'm friends with the rate that they would want to get paid. We do that probably on, I'd say, 75% of the projects. And then there's probably 25% where they kind of meet us in the middle. But hopefully at some point we can produce, at least on the hunt film side of things, at a really high quality on every single project. There's definitely some startup inertia on trying to do all those things. I obviously can't film and edit every project, which is great. It brings some different style into the mix. For example, Christian Valentine filmed my Coos deer hunt and edited it and totally rocked it. It looks way different, I'm sure, than how I would have pieced it together, and I loved it. So those are the things we're trying to do. We have some really cool projects starting to line up for 2026. So if you guys love what we're doing, we would love a little support over there. It's not that much. If you don't, that's fine. Those things will sit on the shelf. But I got to push them a little bit, right? You got to be able to sell yourself and your business. It's the unfortunate part of what we do. But I try to cut it straight with you guys. And yeah, although I do endorse certain products, I'm always going to tell you the truth on them if you ask me. I have guys ask me the difference between Leica and Swaro, and there's pros and cons for both. There's not necessarily a best of either of them. It comes down to how you want to utilize the devices. So, for example, on binos, the Leica GeoVid Pro AV Pluses, those are my choice for pretty much everything I do. I do work with Leica. I would say, though, if you were buying a pair of range-finding binos strictly for NRL Hunter, the Swaro EL ranges are arguably better because the initial speed on the laser and the solution, the ballistic solution, is probably 2 seconds, 3 seconds faster on all the data. Now, you can't enter a wind speed in there. So if it's really windy, you're going to have to try to make some mental calculations on aerodynamic jump and wind. So the Leica does give you that. The Leica has a lot of advantages in the application. And overall, for what I do between hunting and shooting, the GeoVids are they're better. But if you ask me specific questions on specific products, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. And that's really, from day one, Travis and I always tried to build trust in trying to only work with companies and products that are good. Does it mean that they're the best in every situation? No, but they're good. It takes the pool of companies that we get to work with from a big old pot down to a little guy. So that's a challenge, but I think it's worth it. And I think when we talk about things and say things, hopefully it holds more weight than just spewing a bunch of nonsense out there because someone came along and cut us a check to talk about it. So yeah, if you guys have issues, topics, things you want me to talk about, hit me up, let me know. We'll try to do this maybe every other week. We're going to be shooting an NRL Hunter match in a couple of weeks, so we'll have some podcasts from that. We'll try to wrangle some boys in on that thing and keep you up to speed on that. And then before you know it, it's going to be spring bear season. I'm already starting to prep. Hope you guys are too. Good luck out there, not only on the hunts and shooting, but in life. And we'll catch up with you guys soon.